Good morning, I'm Paolo del Rosario. Welcome to Weather HQ on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Today's headlines. Pag-asa says the low-pressure area east of Aurora has developed into Tropical Depression Hener, while the southwest monsoon is affecting southern Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. In the meantime, the low-pressure area outside the Philippine Area of Responsibility has also developed into a tropical cyclone. To know more about the track of Tropical Depression Hener and the tropical storm Pulasan outside the country, we'll speak to Pag-asa later on in the show. Over in Central Europe, thousands of people were evacuated after a low-pressure system caused heavy downpours and flooding. The details on the global weather later on. And we'll talk to an official of the Climate Change Commission to know more about the country's initiatives in assisting vulnerable countries to the adverse effects of climate change and promoting disaster resilience. As mentioned at 8 a.m. today, Tropical Depression Hener was last located 315 kilometers east-northeast of Casiguran, Aurora. Now, this will bring cloudy skies with scattered rains and thunderstorms over the Ilocos region, Cordillera Administrative Region, and the Cagayan Valley. Now, residents are advised to be on alert with possible flash floods or landslides due to moderate to at times heavy rains. Now, this tropical depression will intensify the southwest monsoon coming up right over here, affecting the southern Luzon, the Visayas, and Mindanao, and will bring heavy to intense monsoon rains in the northern portion over at Palawan right over here. It will also affect Occidental Mindoro, Aklan, Antique, and Negros Occidental. Flash floods or landslides are also possible in these areas, so do watch out for that. Now, for the rest of Mimaropa and the western Visayas, as well as the Negros region, all those will experience occasional rains due to the southwest monsoon, as we mentioned, coming up over here. Cloudy skies with scattered rains and thunderstorms will prevail here in Metro Manila, Zamboanga Peninsula, Barm, Soxargen, Caraga, and northern Mindanao, as well as the rest of Luzon and Visayas. Now, the rest of Mindanao will experience cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers or thunderstorms. Meanwhile, the LPA outside the Philippine Area of Responsibility, I'll move over here so everyone can see it, has developed into a tropical cyclone as well. Now, as of 3 a.m. today, the tropical storm Pulasan was located 2,205 kilometers east-southeast of Luzon. Has maximum sustained winds of around 65 kilometers per hour near the center with gustiness of up to 80 kilometers per hour. It is moving north-northeastward at 20 kilometers an hour, so do watch out for that. We'll get more updates on that. But to know more about the update of the Tropical Depression Hener, which is the 7th storm in the Philippines, we have on the line with us Pag-asa weather specialist Alzar Aurelio. Alzar, maraming salamat.
Hello and good morning. The low pressure area near or central Luzon has developed into a tropical depression Hener. As of 7 o'clock in the morning, the center of Hener was at 315 kilometers east-northeast of Casiguran, Aurora. It has a maximum sustained wind of 45 kilometers per hour and gustiness of up to 55 kilometers per hour. Tropical cyclone Cignal number 1 has been raised over eastern and central portion of mainland Cagayan, Isabela, Quirino, eastern portion of Nueva Vizcaya, eastern and southern portion of Apayao, Kalinga, eastern and central portion of Mountain Province, Ifugao, Aurora, eastern portion of Nueva Ecija, and northern portion of the Quezon, including ang Molinon Islands.
Alzar, nakita po namin kanina, nakita po namin kanina na may southwest monsoon din dito. May intensify ba yung southwest monsoon dahil sa Tropical Depression Hener?
Ayan po, may asam po natin yan na palalakas itong bagyong Hener. So, Luzon, Visayas, o halos buong bansa ay asam po ang rainy today.
Alzar, yung Tropical Depression Hener, magla-landfall ba dito sa Pilipinas? And what areas will be affected most by Hener?
Itong si Hener ay posible pong landfall nasa east of Central Luzon at maaaring pong bukas ay mag-landfall po sa may Aurora, Quezon area po.
At pag-usapan muna natin yung Tropical Storm Pulasan. Are we expecting Pulasan to affect the Philippines at the moment? Alam ko nasa labas pa rin siya ng Philippine Area of Responsibility. But are we tracking potential landfall dito sa bansa?
The Tropical Storm Pulasan has a direct effect on the country because it's so far outside the country. The movement of this tropical storm is same movement as Birdie does. So, dadaan po yan sa PER. Right for ng PER, malabo po landfall. Kapag napanatili o maintain sa movement.
Alam ko, we're tracking two storms right now, si Hiner at si Pulasan sa labas. Is there an indication na magkakaroon ba ng Fujiwara effect or basically the two storms coming together?
Base sa data ngayon, malabo magkaroon ng effect na dalawang bagyo o Fujiwara effect dahil sa pagkakalayo, masyadong malayo sa.
Thank you very much for that update. That was Pag-asa Weather Specialist Alzar Aurelio. Maraming salamat. Now let's take a look at the weather conditions in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, in particular, very big cities here. As we mentioned a while ago, rains are expected across Luzon, all throughout, really, starting off in Lawag, Tuguegarao, and a bit sunnier over in Baguio. Now, rain showers are likely in Lawag, Tuguegarao, Olongapo, Tagaytay, and Metro Manila, while isolated rain showers are expected in Legazpi and over in Puerto Princesa City, right down there. Now, Baguio should experience generally fair weather conditions in comparison to what we're seeing over here in Metro Manila, Tuguegarao, and over in Lawag. Now, moving down further south, let's take a look at Visayas. Residents in Bacolod can expect heavy monsoon rains with strong winds, while Iloilo, Metro Cebu, and Tacloban will experience overcast with sporadic rainfall all throughout the day. As you can see here, Bacolod being really affected by the southwest monsoon, as you mentioned a while ago, that could be affected by the other active weather systems that we have here today in particular. Moving over down south, let's take a look at Cagayan de Oro and Zamboanga, because in those areas in particular, you can expect cloudy skies with a bit of rainfall. Not as much sunshine there. Temperatures rising to around 31 degrees, especially in Cagayan de Oro. Meanwhile, in Metro Davao, different story. You're going to have generally fair weather conditions over here. A bit more sunshine rather, are expected to prevail here in Metro Davao. Let's take a look at the 3-day forecast. Let's check if the weather will be suitable for your plans. Starting off first here from Pag-asa's 3-day weather forecast in Metro Manila. Starting tomorrow, generally fair weather conditions are expected in Metro Manila. However, be prepared for thunderstorms, especially in the afternoon or evening on Wednesday and over on Thursday. Cloudy skies with rain showers and thunderstorms are forecasted. Now, for those who are commuting to work, make sure you wear the appropriate clothing. Moving on over to Metro Cebu in the Queen City of the South. You can expect cloudy skies with rain showers for the next 3 days. Not much variation there, with temperatures staying the same all throughout. 31 degrees the high all the way up to Thursday. So do watch out for that. Plan accordingly. And of course, let's see whether or not the rains will affect your commute to work. Make sure you have your rain gears with you just in case. Moving on over to Metro Davao, as we saw a while ago, the next 3 days will feature varying weather conditions. You can anticipate partly cloudy skies with intermittent instances of rain showers and thunderstorms. As we mentioned a while ago, this area of the Philippines, a bit more fair weather conditions compared to Luzon and Visayas, in particular in Metro Manila and Metro Cebu. So to everyone in Davao, enjoy the weather that you have and the sunshine that we're all jealous of up in Luzon and Visayas. Up next, we'll have the Climate Change Commission to discuss the country's moves to help address the impact of climate change and to promote disaster resilience. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're still watching Weather HQ. I'm Paolo del Rosario. The country is hosting 2 initiatives to help contribute towards global efforts in addressing climate change. The Loss and Damage Fund Loss and Damage Fund Board, or LDFB, and the Philippine Resilience Awards. Now, to better understand these, let's speak with Commissioner Rachel Herrera of the Climate Change Commission. Good morning, Commissioner Herrera. Maraming salamat.
Yes, good morning, Paolo, and to all our viewers. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat.
Commissioner, let's talk first about the LDFB. Can you explain the rationale behind this? What was the spur of the foundation of the LDFB?
Yes, the LDFB, or the board that governs the fund that responds to loss and damage, is embodying a landmark decision of the countries that are parties to the Climate Change Convention of the UN, or the UNFCCC. And the Philippines is a party to this convention, and we have in fact been a very strong voice in the annual climate negotiations of the UN Climate Convention. And this board was created or operationalized, this fund and its board rather, they came together during COP28 when the parties decided that this fund should already be formed to help countries that are most impacted by climate change, to help us recover from these impacts and all the losses and damages. For example, in cases of typhoons, flooding, landslides, these have impacts on our economy, on our agricultural productivity, on damages to infrastructure. So this fund is supposed to address that kind of adverse effect of climate change. And this board is created to govern its strategic directions, for example, in terms of who can avail of the fund, who are eligible, how much, is there a minimum or a maximum, and so on. And up to now, or as to date, there's almost $700 million pledged to this fund from various countries, developed countries, who have committed to support this fund, separate from other financing support for greenhouse gas reduction and also adaptation. So this is sort of an independent pillar of climate action or climate justice.
Commissioner, you mentioned the 700 million that is a big rise actually coming from the 660 million last January when the United Nations Environment Program did announce the initial support from other countries for this particular fund. Pero the estimate from the United Nations to actually support nations affected by climate change throughout the decade says 387 billion yung kailangan sa in the span of one whole decade. Just how important is it that this initial fund is there to help out the countries that are affected by climate change, considering that big gap? Again, 387 billion yung estimate ng United Nations.
Well, you're very right. There is a big gap compared to what countries need, what the Philippines needs, what other developing, vulnerable countries need, versus what is already available out there in terms of funding from this loss and damage fund. And you said it's in the billions. It's actually in the trillions, no? And there is this huge, urgent gap that needs to be filled. And therefore, this loss and damage fund needs to be operationalized quickly. Aside from the 600 plus million or almost 700 million pledges, they need to become real contributions because hindi pa sila nabubuo, hindi pa talagang nalilipat yung pondo. And the fund with its board has just met for the second time this year. The Philippines is in this board. We are represented by a Filipino, former DOF Undersecretary Mark Coven, and we are trying to fast track the movement of the fund to enable access. In terms of just having the opportunity here to mention our other needs for our greenhouse gas reduction targets, we also need 72 billion USD. That's our estimate, and we need not just relying on government budget, but we need the private sector and other forms of capital, market based financing and investments to really spur the work and have all this work on mitigation and adaptation and loss and damage, the burden of loss and damage funded well for all the communities of the world.
Commissioner, just want to clarify, absolutely right. US dollars po yung figures na binigay ko kanina, just for those wondering. But I also want to talk about the Philippine Resilience Awards that is also being headed by the commission, your commission in particular. How does this program help address the Philippines' image? Because we do have the image that we are the most at risk of natural disasters based on the 2024 World Disaster Risk Index. Just how big is this effort in particular?
Yes, thank you for asking that. The Philippine Resilience Awards is a platform of recognition that we created. It's actually pioneered by Senator Lauren Legarda, who we know authored the Climate Change Act and has been a climate and environmental champion for decades. And through these awards, we have joined forces, so to speak, with the private sector, with academia, if I could mention the National Resilience Council, where we have SM Prime, Arise, which also is heavily, leaning on the science with the UN Disaster Risk Reduction Office. And we have schools, the Asia Pacific College, we have the Philippine Commission on Women. And this year, we are launching for the second cycle or second year, the PRA to find community-based and grassroots leaders, women and youth. So yun po ang gusto naming iparating sa awards na ito ng PRA na hindi lamang nasa matataas na antas ng gobyerno, halimbawa the usual leaders who are visible and who have the power and resources, but those who are making impact at the community level. And we want to find them where they are making these significant contributions to create a network or pool of resilience champions where they will facilitate the exchange of knowledge. So
Commissioner,
for this year, we have, yes.
Sorry, Commissioner, I just want, we're running out of time, but of course I want to talk more about this for the meantime. You did mention that there will be the awards. I just wanted to know, just siguro para may teaser tayo, who are the nominees and what will the nominees receive should they win or should they be awarded for all of this?
Yes, we have prepared I would say an attractive package, hopefully something that can help them kickstart or sustain their initiative. So aside from the award, there is the 150,000 cash prize, which they can use for their projects to infuse. And then there is the creation of linkages or network, which we know is very important when you're trying to address a multi-stakeholder or multi-sectoral issue like climate change. So gusto nating buuin yan at gawing mas malakas pa itong networking or resilience champions pool with all the awardees of the Philippine Resilience Awards. And sa nominees natin this year, meron po tayong mayors, meron tayong mga sangguniang kabataan na mga leader, at meron tayong mga stakeholders sa baba, village leaders, meron po tayo niyan. And we are very happy with the nominations we've received so far. And we hope we can elevate yung kanilang platform at makilala po sila sa buong bansa.
Commissioner Rachel Herrera, maraming salamat. Thank you very much for joining us and good luck with all your efforts.
Thank you very much, Paolo. Thank you.
Now in return, global weather comes after the break. Stay tuned. You're watching Weather HQ. Welcome back. This is Weather HQ. A low-pressure system called Boris caused heavy downpours and flooding from Poland to Romania. Thousands were evacuated due to heavy rain causing flood in Central Europe. In southwestern Poland, one person drowned and a firefighter died while dealing with the floods in Austria. A bridge collapsed in the historic Polish town of Glucholezi near the Czech border, and a house was swept away in the mountain of Strony Slaski, where a dam burst. Some areas in the Czech Republic and Poland experienced the worst flooding in almost 3 decades, with 250,000 Czech homes without power. In Budapest, officials predicted that the river Danube would rise to more than 8.5 meters in the second half of this week, nearing the record of 8.91 meters in 2013. Well, let's move on over, checking out the cloudy skies with more rain and strong winds are forecasted to continue until today in Poland, Romania, Austria, Czech Republic, and over in Budapest. As you can see here, Budapest in particular experiencing wet weather with around 12 degrees Celsius being the high over there. Romania and Poland experiencing cloudy weather with temperatures a bit more comfortable in that area. Now, in the western part of Europe, specifically in the northern Catalonia region of Spain, emergency services ordered the closure of the main AP7 motorway and a high-speed rail link due to a wildfire on Saturday. A forest fire near Girona in Agullana led to the closure of the motorway and the high-speed rail connection from Figueres to the French border, as reported by firefighters. The Catalan Fire Service later reported that they had successfully brought the blaze under control. A total of 18 fire engines and 5 aerial units were dispatched to combat the forest fire. Forecast in Spain is expected to be pleasant. The maximum temperatures is 27 degrees Celsius. The risk is high, having temperatures that are constantly that high, that even the smallest spark could lead to devastating consequences. So for all of our kababayans in that region, please be cautious of your surroundings to keep you safe. As you can see here, 27 degrees Celsius over in Spain being the high. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday experiencing generally fair weather conditions, with Tuesday in particular being quite hot for that region. Moving on over to Asia. Shanghai is preparing for severe tropical storm Bebinca, which could be the strongest tropical cyclone to hit the city since 1949. Transportation links have been suspended, including flights at the 2 airports and several tourist spots, like the Shanghai Disney Resort, have been temporarily closed. Severe tropical storm Bebinca has a maximum sustained wind speed near its center of around 144 kilometers per hour. It is expected to make landfall along China's eastern coast today. The China Meteorological Administration issued a typhoon red alert, warning about gales and heavy rainfall in eastern China. The Ministry of Water Resources issued a level 4 emergency response for potential flooding in Shanghai and the provinces of Jiangsu and Zhejiang, as well as Anhui. And that's the latest weather information here on Weather HQ. I'm Paolo del Rosario. See you again tomorrow for more weather updates and stories about the environment, climate change, and disaster preparedness. You've been watching Bilyonaryo News Channel.